We start off this chapter when the Academy's 10-day-long holiday has started. The Golden Holiday was created due to the school anniversary Easter of the Loon Church and the weekend. The students either visit the imperial capital together or visit their families and have a great time. However, not all students enjoy this holiday. We return to the boys when they entered the place to volunteer at. Tudor's voice could be heard loudly as he told Vikir that he was lucky his friends came with him and refused to take a break like the other students. It turns out that the boys needed to fill up their volunteering hours too. Sancho thought that it wasn't a bad idea to get it over with right now, while PG honestly just likes to volunteer. But their involvement in volunteering this time with Vikir was a burden to him right now. Looking around the place, Tudor guesses that the place they were at was the Indulgentia orphanage. He was impressed by it, as it was on a different scale since it's the largest orphanage in the imperial capital. PG adds on, telling the group that the headmaster here is the founder of the foundation for the orphans and is also an external lecturer at the academy. Sancho was surprised to learn that and wondered who it was. PG then pointed to a painting nearby them. The headmaster was called Quilty Loon Indulgentia. PG continues to tell us more about him, that he was the head of the Indulgentia family, a family from the maternal side of the Quo Vadis family. He was a popular man, and it seems like he's quite influential within the Loon Church. Speaking about the Loon Church, it was also a well-known fact that there is conflict between him and the Saintess Dolores due to their differences in religious views. As they listened closely to the story, Tudor complained and was bothered by it. After all, he didn't want to get caught up in a fight between the families. Vikir was chilling at the back as usual, thinking about what PG said, and about the popular headmaster of the orphanage. He decided that he was going to find out what this man was like once he got to know him. After wandering around, the group found themselves with the church people. A nun stood in front of the student volunteers, as the orphanage children hid behind her. As she stood there, she told the students that she would like it if the volunteers could be teachers to the children for the next 10 days, the same duration as the Golden Holiday. With a bright smile on her face, she tells the students that if they looked after the children well, then they would never forget their kindness in this lifetime. But as she tells them to treat the children with the heart of a parent, the boys are distracted by something as they all nervously stare in the same direction. Tudor points out the issue, asking why Bianca and Sinclair were here with them as they appeared by their side. Bianca immediately took offense to Tudor's question, responding with a disgusted grunting noise. Bianca justifies their presence in the orphanage, telling Tudor that they were here to volunteer, and that she should be the one asking them what they were doing here. But our boy simply replies to her that a hero doesn't need a reason to do good deeds. His reply irks Bianca as she couldn't stand the hero thing, which was expected of a Don Quixote. While Tudor and Bianca were fighting with their words, another person was sure that their meeting here by coincidence must be fate. PG and Vikir stare at a familiar gray-haired girl in front of them. Sinclair appears, with a joyous smile on her face and a bright aura radiating from her body. She looks at Vikir, all happy to see him here. She nervously approaches him, offering her hand as a greeting. She stutters in her words, saying that it was a shame that they haven't been able to talk much but hope that they will get along in the next 10 days. Vikir hesitates at first, but shakes her hand, hoping for the same thing. The moment they held hands, Sinclair rejoiced, vowing never to wash her hand over again. As she basks in her new treasure, PG whispers to Vikir, telling him that he had a piece of information for him. He reveals that he had seen Sinclair seek out the person in charge of assigning volunteers and make a request. She even inquired where Vikir was going to volunteer and asked to be assigned in the same place as him. Which could only mean one thing. Vikir thought about what PG had told him, making him think that Sinclair had approached him under the pretense of it being a coincidence, so right now he needed to be wary of her. After dealing with Sinclair, Vikir turns his head to look around. His eyes were scanning the area, which made him notice that the headmaster of the orphanage wasn't here in attendance, which made it suspicious. But as he was wondering where the headmaster was, the nun announced that it was time for the children to choose their teacher. Upon hearing those words, the children became super active and rushed forward with great energy. Tudor immediately held 2 kids in his arms, overjoyed by how outgoing the kids were. Sancho was already giving some of the kids piggyback rides, while Bianca couldn't believe how cute the kids were. Even Sinclair was surrounded by children as she read them a funny story from a book. Our boy, Vikir, on the other hand, was giving off that Ohio skibbity riz, as he questioned 3 kids on what their names were. Hearing that from him and seeing him, the kids could only have tears in their eyes and fear in their throats. Soon enough, they immediately turn right and run towards PG instead. As he comforts the children, PG tells Vikir to smile a little as a piece of advice. Thinking about it, Vikir was stunned by his interaction with the kids. After all, he didn't know because Pomerian, our sweet little angel, listened to him pretty well, but now, talking to children was pretty difficult. But as he thought about how to interact with the kids, a little kid with blonde hair catches Vikir's attention as he spots her. But then he notices that she had actually run out of the venue. It turns out that the little kid was chilling by herself at a nearby pillar. She wore a sad and depressed expression on her face, as though she was bothered by something. Vikir suddenly appears by her side. His sudden appearance shocks the little girl. He tells her that he too gets stuffy after being in a place filled with lots of people. He continues to tell her that if he isn't careful, then people might think negatively of him, so he questions the little girl on why she left the place by herself. Instead of answering our boy, the little girl simply turns her head away, making Vikir realize that his plan on talking to her had failed. As he thought about it, he remembered Ayan, who told him that if he asks questions like he usually does, then the child won't reply, so instead, he should ask while smiling. Looking closely at her name tag this time, Vikir kneels down in front of the child, calling her by her name, and with a gentle smile on his face this time, he asks her if Perry is her name. Seeing this side of Vikir, the little girl's eyes opened wide as she blushed hard. But once again, instead of replying to him, she ran away from him this time. Seeing her reaction, Vikir could only wonder if he looked bad while smiling, but another person appears beside him, telling him that the little girl didn't run away because she hates him. It turns out to be the Saintess Dolores, who had seen everything. She tells Vikir that she didn't know that he had such a kind side to him, even though he was pretty gruff this entire time. Dolores reveals to him that Perry's heart had been hurt before, so she closed it this time. As a result, she had developed aphasia, a disorder that affects the way you speak, and hence, she lost her voice. Vikir could only ask what had happened to her, but Dolores didn't know the exact details. All she knew was that Perry was born in the orphanage, and in the past 13 years, she has met countless volunteers who have passed through the orphanage. At first, everyone approached Perry in a friendly manner, but after one day, they stopped coming due to their busy schedules. So Dolores figured that Perry had gotten tired from getting attached to someone in a short amount of time and then grieving their disappearance for a long period of time. But as he thought about Perry's story, the appearance of a third party coming out of the shadow made our boy panic for the first time, as he felt something shiver down his spine. Sweat started to drip down his face as he stared at what it was, while Dolores was going to ask Vikir to take care of Perry based on the way she reacted with him. But he instantly covers her mouth in a single move. The next thing we know, the two of them had disappeared from the hallway as two other men appeared. The guy in green was complaining to Quilty that it has been ages since they last saw each other. Quilty gives the excuse that there has been a sudden increase in people who have requested face-to-face talks with him, in order to confess their recent sins. The big bad boss had appeared, with a Fedo by his side. The man in green continued to talk, telling Quilty that he wanted to buy the exemption. Hearing that request, he replies back with, "How long do you need it for, brother?" The man replies that he wanted to buy 1 billion gold's worth as he had resented killing a barbarian slave that he had bought not long ago, who ran away. After capturing the barbarian slave, he had accidentally killed it while disciplining it. Quilty was curious that a man like him was buying 1 billion gold's worth of exemption just for killing one slave. But the man further reveals that after killing the slave, on his way back to him, he had gotten so angry to the point that he had burned a whole village of slash and burn farmers. It turns out that Vikir and Dolores were hiding from them. As he covers her mouth, our boy gently tells her to be quiet while Dolores wonders why he was doing this all of a sudden. Activating his bloodhound sense, Vikir stares and could recognize the scent that he was smiling in the moment. Looking at Quilty and the man beside him, Vikir recognizes the smell as the same one he had smelt back at the academy. The two men remained unaware of Vikir's presence, talking about how 500 million was enough to justify his actions, while the man in the green assures Quilty that the other half was a top that he wanted to give to the god that was pardoning him for his sins. Looking closely at Quilty this time, Vikir could definitely smell and see the scent of an elite corpse coming from him. As Quilty tells the man that as long as he gives generous offerings, then God will forgive him for his wrongdoings, Dolores was feeling uncomfortable with Vikir's sudden action. As she struggles to free herself from Vikir's grip, he struggles to keep her quiet. In his mind, he begs her to stop moving because they were too close to them. But Dolores wasn't going to stand still. She started to shift her weight around, pushing away from Vikir and telling him to let go. As both of them struggled to go against one another, their little fight caught the attention of a Fedo, who appeared beside them with a serious look on his face.